So let's look at his lyrics. I don't care what people say. That's a whole talk in and of itself, isn't it? How many of you can honestly say, I don't care what people say about me? Good. Yeah, true. Good. I kind of do at times. I know it's not really my problem, it's their problem if they think something, untoward toward me. But it's an interesting thing. I don't care what people say. I don't hope and I don't pray. I don't get down on bended knee and ask the Lord to rescue me. So when he sang the first verse, you can sit here and go, this is very anti-religion, isn't it? This is going to go against everything we were maybe brought up with. How many people here were brought up Christian? Okay, how many people were brought up Jewish? How many people were brought up Buddhist? And there you have it. So it could go very much against what we used to maybe believe. Never been blessed. I was baptized, conformed. Conformed too. Confirmed. I went to absolution, to confession. Although I will say, I wish we had confession in religious science. I mean, wouldn't you? I'd love to sit there in that booth, just listen to what you all have to say. No, I really wouldn't. And I do counseling anyway. But the idea, that was a good idea they had, to be able to let go of whatever's going on and be absolved. The thing is, you can do that to yourself, for yourself. You don't need somebody else to do it for you. So never been blessed, never been saved. I used to say, and I love that, I'm all these things anyway. Never drank the holy wine. I did. I used to try it even before you were supposed to. When I was an altar boy, but it's the worst wine, that wine. But we'd be back there and be like, see the priest? No, okay. Yeah. Never drank the holy wine. Just the same, I'm doing fine. It's in the knowing. So Stan sent me the lyrics so I could read them. I didn't know what the sound of the song was. I'm still vibrating from it, so it's just great. So the title of my talk today is this: which way do you turn? Which way do you turn? And really, the real question is, where do you turn? In times of trouble, in times of adversity, in times of just challenge or confusion, which way do you turn? How do you know which way to turn? Do you spend all of your time getting all the facts and figures? Do you ask, like so many of us, every friend you have to weigh in on it? How many people are the weigh-inners? You need everybody around you to tell you whether or not you should buy this thing. Yeah. No one's raising their hand. Just me. Okay. I really don't do that anymore, but I used to. How many of you used to do that? Yeah, well, we'd have to have everybody's approval before we could make a final decision. So which way do you turn? And more importantly, where do you turn? And what is it that guides you? What is it that leads you? How do you get to that answer there? So Brian Greene is an author who Reverend Tiffany and I are going to be teaching his book, but not really teaching his book. It's a book on string theory. We're not teaching string theory, but it's you read this book and you just let whatever comes from it wash over you. And here's one of his quotes. His book is called The Elegant Universe, and it's understanding requires insight, but insight must be anchored. So just think about that for a second. Understanding requires insight. That means understanding requires you to have something inside of you, in sight, that's in the light, in the vision, in the knowing. Something inside of you that goes beyond what you're being told, beyond what's going on in your life. Something inside of you that knows. Insight must be anchored. So today, what I want to talk to you about is your willingness and your ability to take what you know and anchor it. So it's very much like what Reverend Helen said. No matter what happens, how it sways or bends, I will never break, because I will always be anchored in this truth. And for me, of course, the truth is this: remember who you are. So, question: what anchors you in life? What do you believe holds you in place? What kind of things anchor you? Does your job anchor you? Does having a steady job anchor you? If you lose a job? I remember when Brad ended his position, and he was very so honest and transparent about it and talked about his feelings. Some people could be set at sea by losing a job, but Brad wasn't. He stayed pretty anchored in the truth of who he was. Thus, everything unfolded perfectly. But in order to be anchored in it, you actually have to believe it. You have to know it. There's a knowing that comes into play. So what I'm asking you to look at today is, what do you know? How well do you know it? And is it the center of your life? Is it the anchor in your life? Now, the truth is, we know a lot of things. We know a lot of things. Gravity, bless you. Gravity is a given. Anybody here isn't anchored in gravity? I don't see any of you raising up. Anybody worried they're going to hit the ceiling any minute? No, because we believe that 100%. Gravity is a given. I will probably never levitate. I shouldn't say that. I might decide to someday. But I know I'm standing on the ground and I'm not just going to suddenly flip up in the air. Because I know that. So what if we knew as profoundly, I am God? Or we knew as profoundly, as he writes in The Elegant Universe, that I am that string of life that is connected to everything else, that there's nothing that is not connected. What if I knew that so profoundly as I know gravity? Well, the famous words of Burt Bacharach, what's it all about, Alfie? Where are you? I didn't know you were going to be here today. That's perfect now. What's it all about, Alfie? How many like that song? Right? I went online. I wanted to just listen to it before I gave this talk today. And guess who came up singing it? Cher. And I listened to Cher sing it, and it did not sound like her for the first half of the song. She sounded spectacular. She went into soprano and all that. There was none of that she uses, which I still love. But the listening to Cher sing these lyrics, I was like, wow, this is why I went looking for this. It did something to me. I was like, you think you know something, and you think you know how something's going to land, and then it surprises you. What happens during the surprise? And that's something for you to ask yourself. What happens in your life when you're surprised? When something goes differently than you expected it? This week, this Thursday, on Thanksgiving, will be the anniversary of Nora's accident. That was a huge surprise to all of us. Could have certainly taken us away from being anchored to any sort of feeling or any sort of certainty or any sort of understanding that life is good. Could have taken that and not only bent it or swayed it, but broken it. I could have left that situation broken. So could my whole family. It's not. And it wasn't. Not even that day. So the question becomes, when you're surprised in life, what are you grounded to? What are you anchored in? Understanding requires insight. Insight must be anchored. So today's talk is all about, what do you know? And as I joke about the idea of what's it all about, Alfie, but we're all in that question all the time. What is it all about? What is death about? I mean, like it or not, we're all headed to a destination. We are. And that's not a sad thing or a bad thing. It's just part of the experience. So, but do we know what's going to happen? No, not really. I know we all have ideas, and we all, in our Thursday night class, the advanced consciousness class, this question comes up all the time. What's going to happen? Well, Anita Moorjani says this happened. I'm like, yes, I know she does, but she never died. She had a near-death experience. I've had near success. But I haven't experienced stardom yet. But I've had near success, near stardom. It's not the same thing. So we don't know. So what is it we have to know in order to not know and be okay with not knowing by knowing? Did you get that? Did you follow that? Good. Who said no? Watch it on the talk later. No, what do we have to know in order to be okay with what we don't know? Where is that insight? Where is that anchoring? So Ernest Holmes wrote this. True imagination is not fanciful dreaming. It is fire from heaven. not to be confused with his quote about fire in the belly. But what is heaven? What is heaven? Well, it's very simple. Heaven is consciousness. Heaven is energy. Heaven is the quantum field of pure possibility and potentiality. Heaven is the perfection of everything. It's the very essence of who you are. You are perfection. And then sometimes we get in the way of perfection. And then our lives unravel in certain ways. So, true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming. So this is not about saying, well, what can I know? I'm going to figure this out. I decided to come here. We had a conversation this week about someone was sharing that they believe that you decide who your parents are going to be. You believe that? Okay, good. 2 of you. And some of us have thoughts about it. So I want to take a little poll here. How many of you, knowing now who your parents are, would have chosen them? I love the hands are going up slowly. It's like, I can't do that to them. I always say to people, I say, I don't know, let me think. I chose well, both of my parents did end up becoming alcoholics. So I chose 2 alcoholics. One was a cop who had problems with his anger. And then my mother, who was very unhappy about not being able to do what she wanted to do in life. So I think to myself, and a very, very homophobic, racist family. The entire Mellon Harkins family, racists, homophobes. I thought that would be a good idea. Let me go see how they deal with this. So I can see the fun in that, but I don't know that for sure. What I know for sure is that there is this energetic creative impulse that never began, never ends. It's who I am, it's what I am, and it brought me forth into this moment. That's what brought me forth into this moment. Not perhaps a conscious choice to pick Tom and Dolores Mellon as my parents, but the conscious choice to keep living and growing and expanding. So, this concept, true imagination is not fanciful daydreaming, it is fire from heaven. There is something inside of you, a knowing, a deep knowing. And you know what I think the fire from heaven is for me? Science of mind. I don't often say science of mind from the stage much anymore because it has morphed into so many different teachings and so many different philosophies. But the science of mind, as written by Ernest Holmes, really was a fire from heaven, really was an ignition that set flame to philosophy. Way back in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. He died in 1960. He had thousands of people who followed him, very intelligent people who understood what he was saying even though he didn't. He believed what he was saying. He knew what he was saying. He had insight. He didn't need scientific proof as many of us need these days. And here we are almost 100 years later from when he first wrote it, and we find the proof to much of what he said. So for me, the science of mind is the fire from heaven. And let me just read you what he wrote next. He said, "We have within us a power that is greater than anything we shall ever contact in the outer, a power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and in a new life." I don't know, does that sound exciting to you? Yes. It does to me. I read it and I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. That's why when I went and heard Dr. David Walker speak, I was hooked. First of all, he sang. He was a singer, and he was funny as hell. How many people remember Dr. Walker? Yeah, funny as could be, just hysterically funny, very sarcastic. Right after Reverend Tiffany, same kind of let's just say energy. Yeah. So when he first spoke, that first Sunday I went to hear him, I was like, there is something inside of you, there's something inside of me that day that just went, this is it. And I imagine those of you sitting here today that are members of this church keep coming back, there's something inside of you each week, whether it's me or Tiffany or Eric or Liza or Kelly, that you're saying, yeah, that's true. That's the knowing that I'm talking about. Something in you that doesn't need proof. It's just a knowing, a deep-rooted knowing. So when I look at the anchor that he talked about in that quote, For me, it's the science of mind. So, looking at this quote here, I want to ask you, do you actually know that quote? I mean, do you know the philosophy that that quote is saying? I don't mean intellectually. I mean, do you know it? Does it guide you? Does it lead you? Does it anchor you? Does it say to you, you know what? I can have prosperity bigger than I've ever had it. I can have health, vibrant health, better than I've ever had it. I can have relationships be much better than they've ever been. I can do all of it. I can have it all. At whatever level I choose to have it at. Do you know that? Because I got to tell you, if you know that, you would be that. They're intrinsically linked, knowing and being. Who you are right now is who you have known yourself to be so far. Who you are right now, what you are experiencing in life, is based on what you know and what you've accepted. And who you wish to be, who you desire to become, what you want to experience will change the minute you know something else. It really is that simple. And that's really what this whole month has been about. Are we willing to know more? We have to embody what we observe. So, what does knowing mean? To know someone or something, we have to have a relationship with that thing or person to really know something. We have to embody what we observe, what we think, and what we feel. And we should constantly evolve what we know based on what we know. I can repeat that one. We have to be willing to evolve what we know based on what we know. What that means is when you know deeply that you are this field of pure potentiality, you have to be willing to evolve. You have to be willing to grow. You have to be willing to expand. You have to be willing to say no to the stuff that doesn't work anymore. You can't be same old, same old. You can't relegate yourself to things that aren't making you happy to begin with and then think they're going to make you happy somehow in the future. That's what evolving what you know by dropping into, anchoring into what you know. So he says here, the dictionary says here, to know something or someone means to have a relationship with it. How do you get to know somebody? You have a relationship with it. How do you get to know prosperity? You have a relationship with it. How do you get to know success? You have a relationship with it. Is failure a part of having a relationship with success? You bet. It is. Unless you decide instead to have a relationship with failure. How many here have had relationships with failure? You don't need to raise your hand. Yeah. We all have. And the question is, do I bend and snap? Or do I allow what I absolutely know to take me out of relationship with this, take what I've learned, and move it right back into relationship with what it is I choose? Success, prosperity, health, vibrant relationships. So your relationships need some work too. You need to look at how you relate to these things. And you know how you relate to them? From your beliefs. And you know where your beliefs come from? From your conscious mind choosing, deciding. So it's all about choice, isn't it, at the end of the day? What are you deciding to be in relationship with? The facts evolve. But based on what we innately know, we can evolve with and even cause greater things to happen in our life. And it's not about the facts. It's about what I innately know. I may know that as an actor, moving to New York at the age of 19 was stupid. I had no training. I had no real training. And I moved to New York to be a Broadway star with laughter behind me. Family saying, you'll be back really soon. No, I didn't come back. And yes, I did succeed. I knew it. I didn't base it on the facts. Last night, thanks to Sue, I said Sue, I got this, she sent us an email, and Susan sent us an email, and to see Tick, Tick, Boom. Anybody see it yet? Just came out, blew my mind, just blew my mind. It was so beautiful, but it mostly blew my mind because I was watching my life. I was watching what I went through all in New York this whole time. And many people don't know this, but Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent, I was in workshop with him for the musical Rent 3 times. And then I got down to a few of us for the lead at the end of Rent. And I was telling Helen this. I think she was appalled that I did this. And I'm sitting on my bed in New York City with the headsets on, listening to the script. They gave me the music, gave me the script, said, go home, we're doing a final work day to see who we're casting. And I'm sitting on the bed and I'm listening to this score, and I'm reading the script, and I'm like, I have no idea what this musical's about. And the music, I don't really, so I called my agent and got out of the audition. I did that twice with parts. One was March of the Falsettos, which I was offered and turned down, and then Rent. And because I would have had to get out of another show at the time. I was directing The Fantastics with Kevin starring in it that was touring the country. So I was like, no, I'm going to stick with directing this because it's a little workshop. I mean, it's going to come and go. And then I was in Texas directing Rent, directing The Fantastics, and Kevin, in productions for production meetings, and Kevin calls me from New York. I just went to see Rent, the workshop. I left at intermission. It's awful. And I was like, I made the right decision. Then it opened and was the biggest hit anybody'd seen since Chorus Line. And I was like, what? And then I went to see it and I loved it. But ironically, while you would think, since I was like this close to getting it anyway, I'd be a replacement or I'd do the national tour, nope. I turned down my final callback and that was it. I was never again seen for Rent. Now, here's the deal. I really don't have much emotion about that, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I don't. I've left it back there. But watching that movie last night, I'm like, if I wanted to, I could sell everything and move to New York, get an apartment, and just do it again. If I really want to do that, I've got great ministers, I could turn the church over to them, go to New York, and live the life that I used to live. And I said that to Kevin, and he went to sleep. He was like, whatever, get back to me with a decision. And but then I laid there in bed and I was like, what do I know? I'm going to get up and talk about this tomorrow. What do I know? I have all the facts. I got the inspiration, the excitement by watching this God, there's still something there. But before I could fall asleep, my whole body got very calm and I was just like, I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to be doing, and I am wide open to being back on Broadway at the perfect time. I said, so just keep on, keeping on, doing what you're doing, and everything will unfold perfectly. Now here's the thing. That movie could have sent me into a tailspin if I wasn't anchored in the truth of who I am and what I know. So the question I have for all of us today, to get back to it, is, what are you anchored in? What is it that holds you up? So give me my last quote there of Ernest Holmes. Ernest Holmes says, we are continuously living a new life, and when the old and the new do not fit nicely together, the old, no longer able to contain the new, should be discarded. That's a quote I know you haven't seen. We were talking about all these Ernest Holmes quotes we're finding that we've never seen before. Your life is new as you sit here. It's newer than the life you came in here with. Are you aware of that? Your life is yours to renew every single moment. We are continuously living a new life, and when the old and the new do not fit nicely together, my old life in New York does not fit with my new life. I'd last about a week. I'd go to an audition and I'd be like, what am I doing? I know that. I do know that. They don't fit together. The old never fits with who you are today. It just doesn't. And yet, how many people drag themselves back to the old, trying to reclaim something that was a moving target to begin with? It was constantly moving and evolving and changing. You can never get that back. It's gone. It's in the past. Hakuna Matata. That's it. Who you are now, though, oh my God, you are possible. You are probable. You are infinite. You are the infinite creativity of the universe just begging you to make a choice. What will it be, ma'am? What will you have? When you talk about knowing, there's something in you that knows what you want. There is something in you that absolutely knows what you want. So let me ask you this. What of the old in your life needs to be discarded? What are you still holding on to? What are you still trying to reclaim? What is it that you are ready to let go of? Because the minute you let go of it, think about it, you are letting go of something that's holding you back, that you're dragging with you into the future. So, where do I turn? At the end of this talk, where do I turn? You know, which way do I go? I always know which way to turn. And sometimes I get lost. Anybody? Anybody? Kevin doesn't understand how I ever make it home at night. Really, because when I'm in the car with him, I will turn the wrong way, innately. But I always believe that when I turn the wrong way, it's because there's something that needs me to see it. Don't you laugh at me. No, but Kevin will not agree with that. Kevin will tell you, no, James is directionally challenged. But I am not directionally challenged. My life unfolds perfectly at all times. And if you're with me, you might be in for a longer drive than you're used to. That's all. I always get where I'm going, but I may take a circuitous route to get there. Anybody else take circuitous routes? We all do. Totally. And inevitably, whenever Kevin tells me where I really should turn, then I really get lost because it wasn't in me to do it. So that's the message today. There's something in you that already knows. Don't ask opinions, because opinions, I'm not going there. You can do the joke yourself. You don't need anybody else to tell you what you know, because you already know what you know. You know why? And you know why I know that? Because I know. Because I know who I am. And when I stay there and I remember who I am, everything does unfold perfectly. This week, we get to celebrate Nora on Thursday, and then on Monday, which is when she passed her physical body, we get to take a tram up to the top in Palm Springs, where we all summered together. We would take the tram every summer and have a huge lunch on top of this mountain cliff, and it's where we spread her ashes, and we get to go there and be with her. And I'm not dreading it. I'm not sad about it. I'm actually excited to go celebrate that glorious life again, which I do pretty much every day, 1,000 times a day. And people ask me, how do you do it? How did you do it? First of all, I didn't do it. It's ongoing. But how do you do it? Well, I do know who I am. There is a truth in me that cannot be broken, cannot be questioned. And I don't care what opinions come my way, I know the truth. That's the strength. That's the anchor. That's where you begin and end in this thing called life. When you know who you are, you pass the bar the first time. Yeah. Which Bear just did. When you know who you are, you do not have financial problems. When you know who you are, your body heals itself, knows what to do. When you know who you are, your relationships are strong. When you know who you are, that which you are not falls away. So, which way do you turn? Whichever way your intuitive knower tells you to turn. Because you truly are the very breadth and depth of this universe, the very creativity that created you, the very energy that sustains this entire universe. That's who you are. Know that. Watch what happens. Namaste.